Hagel did not mince words during a discussion with reporters about ISIS Thursday, telling NBC's Jim Miklaszewski just how advanced this terror group is.
Jim, ISIL is as sophisticated and well-funded as any group that we have seen. They're beyond just a terrorist group. They marry ideology, a sophistication of strategic and tactical military prowess. They are tremendously well. Oh, this is beyond anything that we've seen.
California Democratic Congressman Adam Schiff is on the House Intelligence Committee. He joins me live now from Washington. Congressman, let's pick up on those comments from Secretary Hagel. Some of the things that he said, they really stop you in your tracks. How concerned should everyday Americans be about ISIS right now?
Well, we should be very concerned. I think the Secretary is exactly right. This is probably the best resourced terrorist group in history. They hold the territory, and the significance of that is that they have a sanctuary to plan attacks not only in Syria and Iraq, but potentially against the U.S. At home. We also have these thousands of foreign fighters that have gone to join this fight, many of them from Europe, some from the United States. They can travel back, often visa-free travel to the United States. That's an enormous security threat for us. So Americans need to be mindful of just what is at stake, and this is going to be a preeminent security challenge for us for years to come.
How are they so well funded, Congressman?
Well, part of it is external, more of it is internal. They have access to oil revenues and resources which they sell. They're engaged in kidnapping and ransom. They're engaged in criminal activity. They're engaged in hostage taking. And then, you know, historically, from outside of the area, they've gotten support from wealthy Salafists who support their ideology. And we have to do as much as we possibly can to dry up that external source of funding. It's tougher to go after the internal funding. Ultimately, we're going to have to go after that as well. But we have to hammer home the message that some of these allies, purported allies of ours, which are allowing their citizens to fund this group, are really sowing the seeds of their own destruction.
Earlier, we heard from our Richard Engel about the situation of the United Nations today, saying that nearly 200,000 people have died in that conflict so far since it started in 2011. What's the end game there, and how much has the unrest in that country contributed to the rise of ISIS?
Well, it's contributed enormously to the rise of ISIS because that's ISIS' primary base of stability and power. In terms of seeing the end game, Craig, that's a very tough question. We don't have the same kind of ally to work with in Syria the way we do in Iraq. We don't have a regime like we do in Baghdad that's making progress. Instead, we have a regime that has gassed its own people, dropped barrel bombs on its own people. We don't have a credible military partner like we do in the Kurds and the Iraqi Special Forces on the Syrian side of the border. So my guess is what we're going to have to do is fight ISIS predominantly in Iraq until they can be contained in Syria and the equation changes in Syria. Probably the best case scenario, Craig, but it's not something that we're going to see in the near term, is that we're able to bring the kind of pressure we did in Iraq to change the regime in Damascus so that we have someone that we can work with.
No good options. No good options. Congressman Adam Schiff, Congressman, thank you. Have a good weekend.
Thanks, Craig.
Up next here.